what I would like to do, though, especially with my nines next year, is create some sort of relationship with other grade 9 classes where they're kind of maybe doing something similar or commenting on each other's work, and that way getting like building that foundation for why this is a good way to write or why this is a good way to express yourself. Rich in so much information. I mean, if they started in grade 9 and they carry it through to grade 12, they could put reflections for all their classes, their activities, their service, Culturama, like you mentioned, like everything should be on there. And I mean, what a great piece to be able to send to university when you're applying. Like, check out my blog. These are the things I've been working on. Look at this video I've created. Everything's embedded online. And it's kind of like a one-stop shop for universities. Whoa, does that make sense? One-stop shop.
That we've been working on in the Jeepers department is to kind of like make sure that we have the spaces and the moments for students to reflect on the topics that we discuss in class. Because sometimes we discuss a lot of things that are very interesting and very controversial, but it's hard to tackle whether the students have the time later to reflect on all these things. So embedding these opportunities for students in the program we think would be really beneficial for both the teacher and the students. So we're going to be doing that next year, and something that we want to make sure is that we give the students the time to reflect on this, because sometimes we just like, okay, you have 5 minutes to write your post. Like, it doesn't work that way. So we want to create that, and we also in a way are looking for I guess sharing what's happening in one classroom with all the other Jeepers classes, right? So that not only what my students are reflecting on is read by my students, but also maybe like other teacher students could have an insight on what we are doing and how my students are reflecting on. Because at the end of the day, we have the content, we have the same material, resources, whatever, but the way in which a teacher, like, I don't know, facilitates the content might be very different, so students might end up with very different reflections on it. So just to see that, I think would be quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully one day allowing the grade 9s to see what the grade 10s did, or maybe the grade 10s to comment on what the grade 9s are going through, and again just mixing the classes. Yeah, so I think it's a great opportunity that we're going to be doing that in the department. Like, everybody is going to be using blogs, and we're also going to try that in psychology. So we're trying to develop critical thinking in our psych kids. So what we're going to be doing is also to embed into the different units a question that will be explored in their blogs, that will also allow them time to consolidate what happened in class, but also to reflect on what are the other things that I'm missing, that I'm not considering, that I'm not taking into account when I analyze or evaluate this particular scenario. Well, I think, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm so keen in developing this, because I realize that by being a blogger myself, I am allowing myself to have the time to think about things that normally I would just do on automatic, right? Like, everything that we end up like doing in our daily lives is kind of like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to reach this and that, and this is the content and blah blah. But when you need to post something, you definitely need that time to really focus on what is what you are looking for, what is what you want to achieve, what is what you want to make sure that you don't forget. So just doing the exercise, even if you don't write the post, because there's lots of posts. I have like 5 posts that are like on draft, and I haven't been able to write it, but just having that title there has made me start, like, I don't know, start the thinking process of certain aspects of my teaching that I haven't had time or the opportunity to consider. So again, is for students is consolidating learning or consolidating the content, but for me it's also consolidating my practice and what I do and how I'm doing it. Do I want to continue doing it that way or not? And the critical thinking is definitely something that has been extremely, improved. No, I don't know if it has been improved yet, but I hope. But definitely has had a space where it can happen, right? I'm being more critical on what I do just because I have to write about it. So in that sense, I think it has been really, really good, positive.
For me, it'd be all about just sort of teaching students that the blog is their baby and they don't have to wait for me to direct them to do something on it, first of all. And in that way, it opens up so many possibilities. There could be some, and all that provides, requires building up their skills in blogging and understanding that they're in control of their learning. In terms of prescribed tasks, you could have things like filming demos and uploading it and talking about it. Looking at applications in real life, I'm interested in environmental sustainability, and I'm studying chemistry. So as I go through the course, I'm going to start building up a portfolio of how chemistry is important in environmental sustainability, because that's what really interests me. Okay, and so every time I'm on a unit, I'm on an acids and bases unit. Okay, how do acids and bases help with environmental sustainability? I'm going to find articles, I'm going to blog about it, I'm going to draw connections, I'm going to follow on Twitter the people who are involved in environmental sustainability. I'm going to search journals, I'm going to write reviews, I'm going to follow this up. So I see that aspect of extension. So we've got looking at demos, filming them, keeping a record of the stuff you're doing in class that's fun and exciting, applying learning to different contexts. I also see it as a record of their development in chemistry. For example, they could just choose a project that they're going to blog about. It could be that at the start of the unit they started writing a concept map and it was bare, and they write about that, and then in the middle of the unit they write another blog and they show how this concept map has blossomed into something much bigger, and then at the end they see all these connections that have been made. So that idea of constant reflection through a unit and through a course. There's just so many, for me, there's just so much potential that can happen. It's going to be quite organic. So with IFP, who knows, podcasts, videos, I envisage us and students videoing sessions and getting that up on the blogs. And at the start, just being a repository, but gradually you can order that repository, find themes, and turn it into something that could be used by others as a good resource. The other aspect is, for me, which is very important in peace building, not only do we need to help provide people with resources, we also need to get resources from other people, but also networking.
Well, I suppose as a teacher, it helps inform me on what I need to be doing to make the learning experience better. From the student point of view, I think when they see their peers doing something and they can see it being done really well, they can share best practice. And I think that's really, that's been one of the main sort of benefits from it. From an individual point of view, I think the students really reflecting on what they've been doing really helps them take ownership of their learning and develop what their learning needs are as well. Identify and develop an understanding of what they need to do.
My mentees' most enjoyable PSE lesson last year was when they had the chance to interact with peers from other grades. Of course, there are logistical constraints to consider here, but could we use the blogs as a means to generate discussion surrounding shared experiences across grade levels? Here is one example of how I envisage this happening. The 3 students on screen have never spoken, but have all had to make decisions about their IB options.
Hi! So personally, I would have loved to have the opportunity to talk to some grade 11s before making my IB math choices, because it's quite a daunting situation.
Could we encourage or curate blogging groups whereby students across grade levels post or comment on the experiences of others?
Hey guys, my name is Moody and I am here today to talk to you guys about math studies and all of its glory.
The idea of facilitating groups of people to read and comment on each other's blogs is something I have observed with my Grade 5 exhibition group. They have been getting responses from staff, peers and Dover friends alike. To this end, the portfolios and blogs no longer feel like an unnecessary extra, but have become an embedded part of the learning. Could we use the portfolios to shrink what is, at times, a dauntingly large community? The second community I'd like to talk about is the online community. This is my social network. It looks and sounds a lot like me. I would like to see an increased awareness of the importance of media literacy in PSE. Media literacy being the ability to access, analyse, evaluate and create media. Let's take that word access. This is Andreas Schleicher. He's the head of PISA testing worldwide and has recently said that access to diverse online sources, or rather lack thereof, has led society to think that there is only one truth and only one way to live. This is not very UWC. Not only do we have a responsibility to educate our students about how their online reality could be very different to the prevailing opinion in the real world, we also need to ensure that they are able to analyse and evaluate the sources of information. A recent BBC News article suggested that schools should teach pupils how to spot fake news. Schleicher commented that distinguishing what is true from what is not true is a critical judgment and a skill that our pupils should be equipped with. The third community to consider is the online wider community. Breaking out of our echo chambers allows us not only to hear the opinion of others, but for our voice to be heard. I would like to see a greater focus in PSE given to the positive potential of an online presence. Through my own experience of applying for a role as a mentor with the Queen's Young Leaders, I am further convinced that having an online presence that supports your self-proclaimed areas of interest and expertise will no longer just be advantageous for applications, but will be a necessary requirement for many jobs. As part of my role next year, I would love to see the students getting excited about promoting themselves through blogs and online articles, producing creative CVs, and ultimately sharing their passions and interests with the world.